All right, get ready, because on today's deep dive, we are tackling some really far-out theories about the ancient Maya.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah, we're talking about a 19th century explorer named Augustus Le Plongeon and his book, Queen Mu and the Egyptian Sphinx.
Yeah, that's a title.
I know, right? This guy, he was like the Indiana Jones of his time, spending years excavating at Chichen Itza in Mexico.
Yeah, he was a pretty controversial figure, but I think that's what makes him so interesting for a deep dive like this.
Absolutely. I mean, Le Plongeon actually believed that Mayan civilization was incredibly ancient and influential, like maybe even the source of Egyptian culture.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying we're rewriting history here, but let's just see what kind of mind-blowing connections this guy, the Plongeon, was making.
I'm ready. Let's hear it.
All right, so Le Plongeon, he claimed to have discovered the tomb of a Mayan queen named Mu at Chichen Itza.
Queen Mu.
Yeah, Queen Mu. And get this, based on the artwork and symbolism there, he kind of pieced together this whole dramatic story about her life.
And what was this story?
Well, okay, so first of all, he believed that this Queen Mu practiced brother-sister marriage.
Okay, now that's interesting.
Yeah, and he said this custom was found among royalty in, Egypt and other ancient cultures.
Oh, so he's already making these connections.
Exactly. And he even created all these detailed drawings of Queen Mu and other figures based on what he found in the tomb.
I'd love to see those. So she was married to her brother.
Well, yeah, according to Le Plongeon, she was married to her brother, Prince Ko, who was this legendary warrior.
Okay.
But, and here's where it gets really juicy, there was another brother, A, who was also in love with Mu.
Oh, so like a love triangle.
Exactly. A real complicated family dynamic.
Wow.
It is, right? So Le Plongeon, he believed that A was so jealous and power hungry that he actually murdered Ko and took over the throne.
It's like a Mayan soap opera.
I know, right? Total Romeo and Juliet vibes, but with a Mayan twist.
That's awesome.
So we've got intrigue, we've got betrayal, but it gets even crazier because Le Plongeon claimed that the Mayans weren't just, hanging out in Mesoamerica.
Right, like Mexico and Central America.
Right, exactly. But that they were actually a globe-trotting civilization spreading their culture everywhere.
Like all over the world.
Yeah. And the main evidence he used for this was something called linguistic analysis.
Linguistic analysis, so
Right.
like looking at language.
Exactly. He was convinced that you could trace the migrations and cultural exchanges of people across continents just by studying language.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's imagine you're like a detective trying to solve a mystery.
Yeah.
Le Plongeon believed that language was like the fingerprints at a crime scene.
Oh, I see. So he thought that by analyzing languages, he could figure out who was where and what they were doing.
Exactly. So he was basically searching for traces of Mayan language in other cultures.
Like linguistic breadcrumbs.
Yes. Scattered all over the globe.
Did he find any?
Oh, he claims he did. Lots of them. He said he found Mayan words embedded in all sorts of languages, even Akkadian.
Akkadian.
Yeah. That was the language spoken in ancient Mesopotamia, which is modern-day Iraq, basically.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, and not only that, he also found what he thought were Mayan terms in the names of places in India, too.
Whoa. That's a stretch, isn't it?
It does seem that way, right?
Yeah.
But remember, Le Plongeon was totally convinced that the Mayans were this global superpower.
Yeah. Okay, I'm starting to see his logic.
Right. So, for example, he points to the Akkadian words like Akkad and Sumer.
Those were like regions in Mesopotamia, right?
Yeah, exactly. And he said that these words had direct parallels in the Mayan language, they were related somehow.
Okay, so he was looking at the roots of words, how they're structured, and even the grammar to see if there were common patterns.
Exactly. He was trying to decode a secret message hidden within the words themselves.
That's pretty.
It is, right. And he really believed that these similarities weren't just coincidences, but evidence of a deep connection between these cultures.
I'm starting to see how his mind worked.
I know, right? It's all about those aha moments, those hidden links that suggest a shared history, even between cultures that seem totally unrelated.
Totally. It's like putting together a giant puzzle, finding those missing pieces.
Exactly. And it definitely makes you think, could there be something to these connections? Could there be more to history than we know?
It's definitely intriguing.
It is. But speaking of connections, let's talk about Le Plongeon's theory about the color red, because this is where things get really interesting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Le Plongeon was fascinated by the significance of the color red in different cultures.
Red?
Yeah, and he thought it all tied back to the Maya.
Okay, so what did he think about red?
He claimed that red was a sacred color for the Mayans.
Hmm.
Yeah. and that it was associated with their rain god, Chak, and his life-giving power.
I see. And what did the Maya do with red?
Well, he says they used red paint in rituals to mark ownership, and even as a seal in their official documents.
Interesting.
Right. And then he takes this Mayan use of red. He's like, okay, well, what about other ancient cultures? And guess what he finds?
What?
He finds that the Egyptians used red seals too. And there's red dye on statues of Ganesha in India. And even the Polynesians believed that red was like a favorite color of the gods.
Wow. So he's seeing this global pattern, this idea that red was revered by cultures all over the world.
Yeah, it's like he's building a case for this, like secret connection, a shared belief system that links all these different civilizations.
Wow, this Le Plongeon, he's really thinking big.
I know, right? He's like a global detective searching for clues across continents and millennia.
This is pretty wild, I gotta admit.
It is, isn't it? But we're just getting started, because you want to know what Le Plongeon said about the Egyptian Sphinx.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that.
Get ready for this, because he argued that the Egyptian Sphinx was actually inspired by a Mayan statue.
Wait, what? A Mayan Sphinx?
I know, right? I'd never heard of it either. But Le Plongeon claimed to have found it at Chichen Itza.
And what did it look like?
He described it as a dying leopard with a human head.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, but he's not just saying that there was, like, a similar statue.
Yeah.
He's actually claiming that the Egyptian Sphinx is a direct copycat of this Mayan version.
Okay, now that's a bold statement.
It is, right. And remember how we talked about how he was so into languages?
Yeah?
Well, he even tries to use his linguistic analysis to connect the Egyptian name for the Sphinx, Hormaku, to Mayan terms.
Seriously?
Yeah, and get this. Both sphinxes were painted red.
So he's arguing there's a direct line of cultural transmission from the Maya to the Egyptians, using languages, symbols, even art as his evidence.
Got it. I mean, this is getting crazier by the minute.
It really is. This Le Plongeon, he's a total wild card.
He really is. But there's even more. Because guess what else he talks about in his book?
What?
The legend of Atlantis. Yeah. He connects the Mayan account of this, like, catastrophic flood that sank the land of Mu to Plato's Atlantis.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? And according to Le Plongeon, the Maya, they describe this whole event in detail in their sacred books, talking about, like, the date and the geological upheavals that happened and everything.
It's amazing.
It is, right. And to make it even weirder, he even tries to connect the idea that the number 13 is unlucky to this cataclysm.
Seriously, how does that work?
He suggests that this ancient disaster, which like wiped out this whole civilization, had such a lasting impact on humanity that it shaped our superstitions.
Wow, that's deep.
It is, right? It's like this collective trauma that's been passed down through generations.
I never thought about it like that.
Me neither. But okay, let's recap for a second.
Okay.
We've got Queen Mu, a possible Mayan Sphinx, a global Mayan empire, and connection to Atlantis, all in one book.
Le Plongeon, he was thinking big.
He definitely was. I mean, this guy wasn't afraid to think outside the box and make connections that most people would probably dismiss as, like, totally absurd.
Yeah, he's definitely a unique figure in the history of archaeology.
He is.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him so fascinating to explore.
Agreed. So what else did he have to say? So as we, dig deeper into Le Plongeon's theories, I think it's important to remember that he was working in the 19th century.
Right, so, like, things were different back then.
Yeah, totally. Back then, the study of ancient languages and cultures, it was still pretty new,
So there was a lot more, like, room for interpretation, speculation.
Exactly. And Le Plongeon, he definitely wasn't afraid to, push the boundaries.
He sounds like my kind of guy.
Yeah, he was convinced that that language, it held the key to unlocking the secrets of, like, all these ancient civilizations.
I could see that.
Yeah, he believed that, like, by studying the roots of words, their structure, even grammar, you could actually trace the migrations and, like, cultural exchanges of people across continents and, through time.
So he was basically a linguistic detective using words as clues to, like, piece together this global puzzle.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And he really went all in on this idea.
He did, didn't he?
Yeah, he believed that the Mayan language was so sophisticated, so advanced, that it must have been a major influence on all these other ancient languages.
So he was saying that Mayan was like the mother tongue, the proto-language that, like, other languages evolved from.
Yeah, that's basically it.
That's a pretty bold statement.
It is. And it's one that most linguists today would probably disagree with.
Probably so.
But hey, that's what makes Le Plongeon so fascinating, right? He wasn't afraid to go against the grain and propose these like radical ideas.
He was a total maverick.
He was.
Yeah.
So let's go back to his theory about, a global Mayan presence.
Okay.
We talked about the Akkadian connection earlier.
Right.
How did Le Plongeon use that to like support his claim?
Yeah, I'm curious to hear more about that.
Well, he argued that Akkadian, which was spoken in ancient Mesopotamia,
Mhm.
it contained all these words and grammatical structures that were like strikingly similar to Mayan.
Mhm.
He pointed to those geographical terms we mentioned before, like Akkad and Sumer.
Right, those regions.
Right, and he claimed they had like direct parallels in the Mayan language, almost like they were, translations of each other.
So he's basically saying that Mayan colonists settled in Mesopotamia and like left their linguistic fingerprints on the Akkadian language.
Yeah, that's the gist of it.
Wow.
And he didn't stop there. He claimed to have found Mayan terms embedded in other ancient languages too, like in the names of places in India and even Egypt.
Seriously. Like what kind of names? Did he give any specific examples?
Oh, he did. Remember how we talked about the Akkadian word for crocodile, aina?
Yeah, and how it's similar to the Mayan word ain.
Right. Well, Le Plongeon also points to the Egyptian word ain. Yeah, and get this, it refers to both the country of Egypt and the crocodile.
Huh. That's a strange coincidence.
Right. So he argued that this word was actually like derived from the Mayan term, suggesting a Mayan connection to ancient Egypt.
So he's finding these like linguistic echoes of Mayan culture all over the ancient world.
Yeah, it's like he's constructing this whole theory of a forgotten Mayan diaspora.
My diaspora, that's a cool way to put it.
Right, and he wasn't just looking at, individual words either.
Oh, yeah.
He was also analyzing the grammar and syntax of these languages, looking for like deeper structural similarities.
Like he was trying to crack a secret code.
Exactly. It's like he
Yeah.
was trying to decode a secret message hidden within the very fabric of language.
That's pretty amazing.
It is. Now, I'm not a linguist, but even I can see how this could be like pretty subjective.
Right. Like, how do you prove that these similarities aren't just like random chance?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yep.
And it's one that linguists have been grappling with for centuries.
It seems like it.
But whether or not Le Plongeon was right about the specifics, I think his work raises some really interesting questions about the interconnectedness of ancient cultures.
It makes you think outside the box for sure.
Right, and that's what makes these deep dives so much fun.
Totally. I mean, could there be something to his linguistic theories? Even if he like got some of the details wrong, could he have been onto something bigger?
Yeah, it's like, when you look up at the stars and you start seeing those patterns and constellations,
Yeah.
maybe some of those connections are real and maybe some are just our imaginations, running wild.
It's a beautiful way to put it.
Right. And I think that's the beauty of exploring these unconventional theories.
Yeah.
They challenge us to think differently, to question our assumptions about the past, and to just like wonder about all the things we still don't know.
He definitely wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo.
Not at all. He was a true maverick, wasn't he?
He was. So let's go back to Queen Mu for a moment. I'm really curious to learn more about her.
Yeah, she's a fascinating figure.
She is. She obviously plays a central role in Le Plongeon's theories.
She does.
What else can you tell me about this mysterious queen?
Well, remember how Le Plongeon believed that the Maya traveled all over the world?
Yeah.
He actually saw Queen Mu as like a key figure in that global Mayan civilization.
Interesting.
Yeah, he believed that after facing all that tragedy and turmoil back home, remember her brother murdering her husband,
Right.
he thought she embarked on this journey eastward, spreading Mayan culture and knowledge as she went.
Wow. So where did he believe she ended up?
He believed she eventually reached Egypt.
Egypt.
Yeah. And get this, he even suggested that Queen Mu may have been the inspiration for the goddess Isis.
Wait, Isis? The Egyptian goddess? You're telling me he thought she was based on a real Mayan queen?
Yeah, that's what he thought.
Okay, now that's a theory I've never heard before.
It's a pretty wild one, right?
It is. But Le Plongeon, he actually pointed to several similarities between Queen Mu and Isis to support his theory.
Oh, okay. So like what kind of evidence did he have?
Well, for example, he noted that both figures were often depicted wearing these elaborate headdresses and garments decorated with feathers.
Feathers.
Yeah, and he believed that was a, distinctly Mayan style.
Ah, interesting.
I know, right? Are there any other similarities?
Oh, yeah. He also claimed that both Queen Mu and Isis were associated with snakes and other symbols that were important in both Mayan and Egyptian cultures.
I see. So he's finding all these parallels.
Right. And remember how he was so convinced that the Mayans had this sophisticated understanding of astronomy and, other sciences?
Right, right.
Well, he believed that Queen Mu would have brought this knowledge with her to Egypt and, influenced the development of Egyptian culture.
So he's seeing her as this kind of like cultural ambassador, a Mayan emissary spreading wisdom to the ancient world.
Yeah, exactly. It's a pretty compelling narrative, even if it is, a bit out there.
It is. It is. And whether or not you actually buy into all of Le Plongeon's theories, it's fascinating to just consider the possibility that ancient cultures were more interconnected than we often assume.
That's a great point.
It's like he's trying to tell us that the world, even, thousands of years ago, wasn't as isolated as we might think.
Yeah.
Like people were traveling, sharing ideas, influencing each other in ways we're only just beginning to understand.
I agree. And that message, it resonates even more strongly today, in our increasingly interconnected world.
It does. It does. But okay, we've talked about Le Plongeon's linguistic theories and his ideas about Queen Mu.
Right.
But what about his claims that the Maya were incredibly advanced in science and mathematics?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, I mean, he went so far as to say that they understood astronomy, geology, even calculated the Earth's circumference way before European scientists.
He did, didn't he?
Yeah. How is that even possible?
Well, Le Plongeon was absolutely convinced that the Maya were far more advanced than most people gave them credit for. He saw, evidence of their scientific prowess everywhere. Their architecture, their calendar system, even in their myths and legends.
So, give me an example. What kind of evidence are we talking about?
Well, for example, he argued that the Maya pyramids weren't just, tombs or temples.
Yeah.
He thought they actually functioned as these, sophisticated astronomical observatories, aligned with the stars and planets.
Really?
Yeah. And don't forget about that incredible Mayan calendar.
Oh, right, the calendar.
Le Plongeon, he was just blown away by its complexity and accuracy, He saw it as a testament to the Maya's deep understanding of time and the cosmos.
So he's painting this picture of the Maya as the unsung heroes of ancient science, making groundbreaking discoveries that are only now being rediscovered by modern researchers.
Exactly. It's like he's saying, hey, look, these guys, they were geniuses.
Yeah. Geniuses ahead of their time.
Right. And there's definitely a lot of evidence to suggest that the Maya were incredibly intelligent and innovative.
For sure.
Even if, Le Plongeon's interpretations are debatable, there's no denying that they made some really significant contributions to human knowledge.
I mean, just look at the ruins they left behind.
Yeah, exactly.
Those pyramids, temples, observatories, they're still standing after centuries,
Yeah.
It's a testament to their ingenuity and architectural skills.
Absolutely. Their legacy continues to inspire us to this day.
It does. But speaking of inspiring legacies, let's circle back to that mind-blowing story about the cataclysm that destroyed the land of Mu.
Oh, yeah, the cataclysm?
Yeah, Le Plongeon, he really went all in on that theory, drawing parallels to Plato's Atlantis.
It's such a dramatic and evocative story, isn't it? This idea of a lost civilization swallowed up by the sea.
Totally. And it's not just a Mayan tale either.
Right. Similar myths and legends about catastrophic floods and lost continents, they exist in cultures all over the world.
It's like this universal fear,
Right.
a collective memory of some ancient trauma that's been passed down through generations.
A powerful idea.
Yeah. Le Plongeon, he really believed that the Maya had preserved a detailed account of this cataclysm in their sacred books.
Mm-hmm.
He drew comparisons to the Atlantis story, arguing that both of them describe this devastating flood or earthquake that wiped out an advanced civilization.
It's a chilling thought.
It is. And to top it all off, he linked the number 13 being considered unlucky to this event.
Seriously, the number 13.
I know, right? It's such a wild connection.
Yeah.
He suggested that the number 13 became associated with bad luck because it marked the anniversary of this catastrophic event.
Oh, wow. So a cosmic reminder of this ancient tragedy.
Exactly. It's like the ultimate bad luck charm.
I've never thought about it that way before.
It's pretty mind-blowing, right? But it makes you wonder what other traces of this ancient cataclysm might still be, hidden in our collective memory waiting to be uncovered?
It's a fascinating question.
It is. It's a question that continues to intrigue historians, archaeologists, mythologists, to this day.
It does, and it speaks to the power of stories and myths to like shape our understanding of the world.
Okay, so we've talked about Le Plongeon's linguistic theories and his ideas about Queen Mu and this amazing cataclysm.
Right.
But before we wrap up, I want to talk about his legacy. I mean, he's obviously a controversial figure.
He was.
But what lasting impact did his theories have on our understanding of the Maya? Like, did he leave a positive contribution to the field?
That's a great question, and it's one that scholars are still debating today.
Really?
Yeah, Le Plongeon's work, as we've seen, it was often very speculative, and based on like unconventional interpretations of the evidence.
So he was more of a visionary than a traditional scholar.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Like a big thinker who wasn't afraid to make like these bold leaps.
Exactly. And even though many of his, specific claims haven't really stood the test of time, his work did have a significant impact in several ways.
Like how so? How did he influence our understanding of the Maya?
Well, for one thing, Le Plongeon played a huge role in popularizing interest in the Maya civilization among, the general public.
I see that.
Yeah, his books and lectures, they were filled with these like dramatic stories and intriguing theories, and they really captured the imagination of people all over the world.
So he was like a rock star archaeologist bringing the Maya to life for a wide audience.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And even though some scholars criticized his methods, Le Plongeon's enthusiasm and passion for the Maya, it inspired others to take a fresh look at this incredible civilization.
To see things differently.
Right, to question long-held assumptions and to, explore new possibilities.
He was a bit of a rebel, shaking things up and challenging the academic establishment.
He definitely was, and while not all of his ideas were accepted, he helped to pave the way for, future discoveries and reinterpretations of Mayan history and culture.
So he left behind a legacy of curiosity, in a sense that there's always more to learn, always more to uncover about the mysteries of the past.
Absolutely. And that's a valuable legacy indeed.
It is.
So as we, reflect on Le Plongeon's work, what do you think his most enduring contribution to the field has been?
That's a great question. I think it's his willingness to think outside the box, to see like connections where others saw only differences.
Yeah, that's a great point. He reminds us that history is not a like fixed narrative, but a constantly evolving story that's always open to new interpretation.
And sometimes it takes a maverick like Le Plongeon to push the boundaries and make us see the past in a whole new light.
Well said. Now, as we, delve deeper into Le Plongeon's ideas, what are your thoughts on his portrayal of Queen Mu? Do you find her story compelling?
I do, Whether or not she actually traveled to Egypt and influenced ancient Egyptian civilization, that's up for debate. But I find it fascinating how Le Plongeon uses her story to paint this grand picture of interconnectedness between ancient cultures.
Yeah.
It's like he's trying to tell us that the world, even in ancient times, was more connected than we might think.
That's a powerful message, especially in today's, globalized world.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we're all part of a shared human story that transcends borders and time.
It does. And who knows, maybe Le Plongeon with his bold claims and unconventional theories, maybe he was onto something after all,
Yeah, maybe he was.
Like maybe we've only just scratched the surface of the connections between ancient cultures.
Perhaps. Or maybe he was just a brilliant storyteller who knew how to weave a captivating narrative.
Yeah. That's true too.
Either way, he's given us a lot to think about.
Yes.
So as we continue our deep dive into Le Plongeon's world, what other aspects of his theories are you most curious about?
Well, we've covered a lot of ground, but there's one aspect of Le Plongeon's work that we haven't really touched on yet.
Oh.
And that's his fascination with the symbolism of ancient cultures.
Oh, right. Symbolism.
Yeah. Remember, he was a photographer, so he was very attuned to visual imagery.
Right.
He was always looking for like hidden meanings and connections in the art and architecture of the Maya.
Yeah. So what kind of symbols was he looking at?
Well, one of the most prominent symbols he focused on was the serpent.
The serpent.
Yeah. He saw serpents depicted in Mayan art and architecture, and he connected them to serpent imagery in other cultures from Egypt to India.
Well, serpents they're pretty universal symbols, aren't they?
They are. They show up in mythology and folklore all over the world. They do. But Le Plongeon, he believed that there was a reason for that, you know?
Yeah.
He saw the serpent as a symbol of wisdom, knowledge, even immortality.
It's interesting how a single symbol can hold so much meaning across different
Yeah,
cultures.
like what does a serpent mean to you? To me, it's a bit mysterious, even a bit dangerous,
Yeah.
but it also represents something ancient and powerful.
I agree. And Le Plongeon, he saw these shared meanings as evidence of a common origin, like a shared belief system that connected ancient cultures around the world.
It's like he's saying that symbols are these universal keys that unlock hidden truths about the human experience.
That's a great way to put it. He was looking for the common threads that tie us all together, the universal symbols that speak to our shared humanity.
I love that. So he's not just a linguist detective. He's also a symbol decoder trying to crack the code of ancient imagery.
Exactly.
This is getting more and more fascinating.
It is, isn't it? Le Plongeon reminds us that there are so many different ways to approach history and archaeology. It's not just about, digging up artifacts and analyzing data.
Yeah.
It's also about interpreting symbols, understanding myths, and piecing together the puzzle of human culture.
And sometimes, it takes a bit of imagination and a willingness to think outside the box to make those connections.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of thinking outside the box, Le Plongeon wasn't just interested in individual symbols.
Okay.
He was also fascinated by the way symbols were arranged and combined, particularly in architecture.
Oh, right. He spent years studying the layout and design of the Mayan pyramids and temples.
He did. So what did he find?
Yeah, what was he looking for?
Well, he was convinced that these structures weren't just random piles of stones.
Okay.
He believed they were carefully designed to encode specific astronomical and cosmological knowledge.
Like they were blueprints of the universe.
Exactly. He argued that the Maya, they used their architecture to align with the movements of the sun, moon, and stars, and to create a physical representation of their understanding of the cosmos.
So he's seeing the Mayan pyramids not just as buildings, but as giant 3D models of their worldview.
That's right. And he wasn't just looking at the Maya either.
Oh, no.
He saw similar patterns and symbolism in the architecture of other ancient cultures, from the pyramids of Egypt to the temples of India.
So he's finding these hidden connections everywhere.
He was. It's like he was obsessed with proving that all these ancient civilizations were somehow linked.
It makes you wonder if he was onto something,
Yeah.
Could there be more to these ancient symbols and structures than we realize? Could there be hidden knowledge encoded within them waiting to be deciphered?
It's a question that continues to intrigue researchers and explorers to this day.
It does, and it's a testament to the power of Le Plongeon's work.
Yeah.
To inspire, curiosity and wonder about the past.
It is. He definitely left a mark, that's for sure.
He did. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to circle back to his theory about the color red.
Okay, red.
Yeah, we talked about how he saw it as a sacred color for the Maya and how he connected it to other cultures around the world. But what specifically about the color red fascinated him so much?
Well, remember how we discussed the Mayan rain god Chak and
Yeah.
how he was associated with life-giving power?
Right.
Le Plongeon, he believed that the color red symbolized this life force, this vital energy that permeates the universe.
So it wasn't just a random color to him.
Not at all.
It represented something deeper, something essential to the Mayan world.
Exactly. And he saw this connection to red reflected in other cultures as well.
Okay.
He pointed to the use of red ochre in ancient burial rituals, the association of red with blood and sacrifice, and the belief that that red could ward off evil spirits.
It's interesting how a single color can evoke such a wide range of emotions and associations.
Yes,
Red can represent passion, danger, love, anger, even life itself.
Yeah,
And,
exactly. And Le Plongeon, he saw this complexity, this multi-layered meaning as evidence of red's like profound significance in human culture.
he was really digging deep into the symbolism, wasn't he?
He was.
Trying to understand not just what things looked like, but what they meant, what they represented on a deeper level.
He was, and I think that's a valuable lesson for us as we explore ancient cultures and try to understand their beliefs and worldview. We can't just look at the surface. We
Uh,
have to dig deeper, consider the symbolism, and try to grasp the underlying meanings and connections.
It's like we're archaeologists of the mind, excavating layers of meaning and symbolism to uncover the hidden truths of human history.
I love that analogy. And who knows, maybe as we continue to explore and reinterpret the past, we'll find even more connections and patterns that Le Plongeon never even dreamed of.
I hope so. Well, he certainly set the bar high for unconventional thinking.
He did. All right, I'm ready to keep diving deeper into Le Plongeon's world.
Me too. What other mysteries await us?
Well, we've explored Le Plongeon's linguistic theories, his fascination with Queen Mu, and his analysis of ancient symbolism.
Right.
But there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to examine. His interpretation of Mayan mythology.
Oh, okay, mythology.
Yeah. Le Plongeon, he believed that these ancient stories weren't just like fairy tales or creation myths.
Right.
He saw them as encoded historical records, a way for the Maya to preserve their knowledge and history across generations.
So he was looking for like hidden truths within the myths.
Exactly, like a secret code waiting to be deciphered.
That's so good.
Right, and one of the most intriguing myths he analyzed was the story of the hero twins, a tale that's found in many Mesoamerican cultures, including the Maya.
Oh yeah, the hero twins. I think I've heard of them.
Have you?
Yeah, weren't they like demigods who went on all these adventures and battled underworld creatures?
That's right. The hero twins they're central figures in Mayan mythology.
Oh, sure.
They're often depicted as skilled hunters, ball players, and even magicians.
And Le Plongeon believed these stories were based on real historical figures.
He did. He saw the hero twins as representations of real Mayan leaders or warriors who undertook, epic journeys and overcame great challenges.
So he was reading the myths as historical allegories.
Yeah.
Like a way for the Maya to tell their history through stories and symbolism.
Exactly. And he wasn't just looking at the literal events of the story either.
Oh yeah.
He was also analyzing the symbolism, the characters, and the themes, looking for deeper meanings and connections.
It's like he was trying to decode a secret language hidden within the myths.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
He believed that the Maya, they encoded their knowledge and beliefs within these stories using metaphors, allegories, and symbolism to preserve their wisdom across time.
So like what were some of the key symbols and themes he focused on in the hero twins myth?
Well, one of the most prominent themes he explored was the concept of duality, the interplay of opposites.
Cyclicality.
Yeah. The hero twins themselves, they represent this duality.
Right.
They're often depicted as twins with contrasting personalities and abilities.
Well, so like the classic good twin, bad twin dynamic.
Sort of, but it's more nuanced than that.
Right.
Le Plongeon, he saw the twins as representing different aspects of human nature. The
Yeah.
light and the dark, the masculine and the feminine, the creative and the destructive.
It's like the yin and yang of Mayan mythology.
Exactly. And this duality is reflected throughout the story. The twins face challenges from both the underworld and the celestial realm. They battle monsters and gods, and they navigate the treacherous waters between life and death.
Wow, so it's a classic hero's journey, filled with trials and tribulations.
It is. And
Yeah.
Le Plongeon, he saw this journey as a metaphor for the human experience, the challenges we all face in our own lives as we strive for balance and understanding.
I see. So he's reading the myth on multiple levels,
Right.
seeing it as both a historical allegory and a universal story about the human condition.
Exactly. And this is what makes Le Plongeon's work so fascinating.
I agree.
He's not afraid to think big, to see connections between seemingly, disparate ideas and to interpret myths and symbols in these unconventional ways.
He was definitely a pioneer in his field.
He was. Now, before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I have to know what did Le Plongeon believe happened to the Maya?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, their civilization eventually collapsed.
Right. Yeah,
What was his theory about what caused their downfall?
I'm curious to hear that.
Well, that's a great question, and it's one that historians and archaeologists are still like trying to answer today.
Really? So there's no definitive answer.
There's no single definitive explanation for the Maya collapse.
Okay.
But Le Plongeon, of course, he had his own theory.
Okay, what's his theory?
Remember how he believed that the Maya were this advanced globe-trotting civilization?
Yeah.
Well, he also believed that their sophistication it ultimately led to their downfall.
Wait, how could being advanced lead to their collapse?
He argued that as the Maya became more technologically advanced, they also became more complacent, more disconnected from nature and more focused on material wealth and power. He believed that this led to, social unrest, environmental degradation, and ultimately the collapse of their civilization.
So it's kind of like the classic too much of a good thing scenario. Like they got so caught up in their advancements that they lost sight of what really mattered.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Like they forgot how to live in balance with nature and with each other.
Exactly. Le Plongeon, he saw their decline as a cautionary tale, a warning about the dangers of unchecked progress and the importance of maintaining a balance between technology and nature, between material wealth and spiritual values.
It's a pretty sobering thought, especially considering the challenges we face today with climate change, social inequality, technological disruption.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if there are lessons we can learn from the Maya collapse.
Absolutely. And that's one of the most valuable things about studying ancient history. It allows us to reflect on the past, to consider the choices that were made, and to learn from both the successes and the failures of those who came before us.
It's like looking into a mirror, seeing both the beauty and the fragility of human civilization.
Well said. All right, we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive.
We have.
We've explored Le Plongeon's linguistic theories, his fascination with Queen Mu, his interpretation of Mayan mythology, his analysis of ancient symbolism, and even his theory about the Maya collapse.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. Are you ready for the final leg of our journey?
I am. What other wonders await us in the world of Augustus Le Plongeon?
Well, we've talked about Le Plongeon's ideas about language, symbolism, even Mayan mythology, and I think what's really remarkable is how he used all these different lines of evidence to support his claims.
Right. He wasn't just focused on one thing.
Right. He didn't just rely on linguistics or symbolism in isolation.
Yeah.
He tried to weave them together to create this more compelling narrative.
It's like he's a lawyer building a case. Right?
Yeah.
Presenting all these different pieces of evidence to convince the jury.
I like that analogy.
And in this case, the jury is us, the listeners.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that when we're evaluating, unconventional theories like Le Plongeon's, it's important to consider the whole picture,
Right. Don't just focus on individual claims that might seem outlandish on their own.
Right.
Look at how all the pieces fit together.
It's about seeing the big picture, connecting the dots, and I think that's what makes Le Plongeon's work so fascinating.
Yeah, I agree.
Even if we don't buy into all of his conclusions, he forces us to think critically and consider different perspectives.
He challenges us to step outside our comfort zones and grapple with ideas that might initially seem strange or unfamiliar.
Exactly.
And that's a valuable exercise, isn't it? It helps us broaden our understanding of the world and appreciate the diversity of human thought.
Absolutely. It reminds us that there are many ways to interpret the past, and that history is a constantly evolving conversation.
It is. And speaking of conversations, one recurring theme in Le Plongeon's work is this idea of the interconnectedness of ancient civilizations.
Oh yeah, that's a big one for him.
Yeah, he seemed obsessed with proving that cultures were constantly exchanging ideas and influencing each other.
He did. He saw evidence of this interconnectedness everywhere, from language and symbolism to art, architecture, even mythology.
He believed there was this like vibrant network of cultural transmission that spanned continents.
He did, and he saw the Maya as a key player in this network, spreading their knowledge and influence far and wide.
It's a vision of the ancient world that's both inspiring and humbling.
It is.
Inspiring because it suggests that humans, even thousands of years ago, were capable of achieving great things when they collaborated and shared knowledge.
Right.
And humbling because it reminds us that our own civilization is built upon the foundations laid by those who came before us.
It's a good point.
It's like we're all part of this long, intricate tapestry of human history woven together by countless threads of cultural exchange and innovation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Le Plongeon, with his bold theories and unconventional methods, he challenges us to see those connections, to trace those threads back through time, and to appreciate the complex web of influences that have shaped our world.
I mean, he was a true pioneer, a visionary who dared to look beyond the accepted narratives and explore the hidden possibilities of human history.
He may not have, gotten all the details right, but he asked the right questions. He
I
did.
think-
He challenged us to think differently about the past, and to consider the profound connections that bind us together across time and space.
And ultimately, isn't that what history is all about?
I think so.
Asking questions, seeking answers, and piecing together the fragments of the past to create a richer, more nuanced understanding of ourselves and our place in the world.
I think so, and I believe Le Plongeon, with his passion for the Maya and his unyielding curiosity, he would wholeheartedly agree.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into the extraordinary world of Augustus Le Plongeon.
It's been a good one.
It has. It's been a wild ride through ancient mysteries, unconventional theories, and thought-provoking ideas.
It has, and I hope our listeners have enjoyed the journey as much as we have.
I'm sure they have. Who knows? Maybe Le Plongeon's spirit adventure will inspire them to embark on their own deep dives into the mysteries of the past.
I hope so.
Yeah.
There's a whole world of knowledge out there waiting to be discovered, and sometimes it takes a little bit of unconventional thinking to unlock its secrets.
It does. So to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the spirit of discovery alive.
Until next time, happy deep diving.